Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 3T Path channel, and welcome back to our Uddhava-gita course. So this is our 43rd class of this wonderful text, the Uddhava-gita, and today we have a special class because today we have one of those special paragraphs, a combination of, in this case, 4 different shlokas of 4 verses where Krishna describes the perfect saintly person, the perfect devotee, the perfect yogi. And these paragraphs, these sections are very important because they give us an outline. They show us what we can be, where we could be at. They give us a map for us to develop ourselves, to elevate ourselves to these wonderful qualities. So pay close attention today to these wonderful qualities. Now, if you want to watch the other 42 classes of the Uddhava-gita course, make sure you become a member of this channel. The instructions are here in the description of the video, and then you can access the entire course at your leisure. So we are now in the 11th canto, 11th chapter, and this, again, it's a block of 4 verses, verses 29 to 32, spoken by Krishna. So let's get started here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "O Uddhava, a saintly person is merciful and never injures others. Even if others are aggressive, he is tolerant and forgiving toward all living entities. His strength and meaning in life come from truth itself. He is free from all envy and jealousy, and his mind is equal in material happiness and distress. Thus he dedicates his time to work for the welfare of all others. His intelligence is never bewildered by material desires, and he has controlled his senses. His behavior is always pleasing, never harsh, and always exemplary. He is free from possessiveness. He never endeavors in ordinary worldly activities, and he strictly controls his eating. He therefore always remains peaceful and steady. A saintly person is thoughtful and accepts me as his only shelter. Such a person is very cautious in the execution of his duties and is never subject to superficial transformations because he is steady and noble even in a distressing situation. He has conquered over the 6 material qualities, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. He is free from all desire for prestige and offers honor to others. He is expert in reviving the Krishna consciousness of others, and therefore never cheats anyone. Rather, he is a well-wishing friend to all, being most merciful. Such a saintly person must be considered the most learned of men. He perfectly understands the ordinary religious duties prescribed by me in various Vedic scriptures, possesses favorable qualities that purify the performer, and he knows that neglect of such duties constitutes a discrepancy in one's life. Having taken complete shelter at my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary dharmas and worships me alone. He is thus considered to be the best among all living people." Very nice. So let's go back. There's a lot to take in. You can hear it over and over again so we can map out our, the progress we want to make in our lives. So let's take a look at this then. So first thing, what's the top of the list? The top of the list is merciful, ahimsa. The first thing he wants you to do is to be merciful and non-violent. Top of the list, ahimsa is the number 1 of all qualities. It's the top of the list when you do the yamas and niyamas. It's always at the top of the list. The most important quality, of course, is ahimsa. The idea is that you never want to injure someone. Of course, you're like, oh, you kill a lettuce because you eat salad, so you kill a lettuce and you kill a carrot. Sure. So of course, there's always violence to survive, but we want to minimize. No, we would like the least amount possible of violence, and we of course, won't kill animals, but not just eating, but just in general in life. Can you imagine if people just did this one thing? If people just had this one quality of ahimsa, how wonderful the world would be, right? Not injuring others. Can you imagine? I mean, I can't imagine. It's like, it would be so wonderful. So this is one quality, and of course it's always at the top of the list. So, merciful, you're thinking of the well-being of others. It's in your mind, priority, the well-being of others. And so, of course, you never cause any injury that can be avoided. Like, again, there's always violence. You have to kill, a lettuce and you kill a carrot. But, so it's different. But the least amount of violence possible. So that's the top of the list. Now, you might say, even if others are aggressive, he is tolerant and forgiving. Now, people are aggressive to us, right? They're manifesting tamagun, so they become aggressive. But even then, you're supposed to answer with the least amount of injury possible. You shouldn't get into that vibe. You shouldn't get into that low consciousness of the people who attacked you. So you defend yourself. I mean, remember, this is the same Krishna that was telling Arjuna he had to fight. So we're not talking about just standing around. It's not the instruction here. This is the same Krishna who told Arjuna to fight and kill thousands of soldiers because that was a war, that was his duty. They were attacking him. That's different. So of course if you have to defend yourself, you defend yourself. So it's not, this isn't the same just sit around and, let anybody abuse you. That's not the instruction. But what happens is people are aggressive to us. We tend to there's a tendency to lose your good qualities. To want to inflict pain, to want to be mean back. Tit for tat. An eye for an eye kind of. So that's not it. That's not what Krishna. So Krishna's saying don't do that. Even if people are aggressive to you, you can still try to respond in a higher level with love, do the least amount of injury possible. And that's the best thing, because people are so angry all the time. People are so violent. So what you have to do is just you understand that person is just suffering, is just tamogun. Don't take it personally. They have all this tamas. They're cultivating violence. They're receiving violence. And that violence is coming out. It's like a toxic stuff that's just coming out of their heart. Their heart's full of toxicity. It comes out, and you happen to be the person who was in front of that. So it's not even personal. It's just the way. So you don't take it personal. Don't make it worse. Respond with the highest possible amount of love and compassion. His strength and meaning in life come from the truth itself. That's a beautiful line, isn't it? Strength and meaning in life come from truth. Basis, this search for truth, sattva, being truthful, being true, being truthful, just, removing illusion, removing falsity. That's the path of the yoga. We want to find the truth. We're searching out the truth of reality, ultimate truth. And we want to understand life truthfully. We want to be true to ourselves. We want to know who we are. So we are in the path of truthfulness and reality and removing illusion and lies. So our strength and meaning come from truth itself. And free of all envy and jealousy. Now, why would you be free of envy and jealousy? Very simple. What are envy and jealousy based on? They're based on a future material desire. That's what they're based on. Envy and jealousy aren't focused on Dharma. They aren't focused on Bhakti. They're not focused on soul. They exist purely in the material concept of life, where you think that such and such a situation in material reality will make you happy. It's what I call the fantasy paradigm. So you decide, oh, if I had that car and that phone and that body and that wife or that husband in that place or that job, then I would be happy. So it's a fantasy that you've created in your mind because you think you're material and you think this configuration of material things would make you happy. It won't. But anyway, you think that. So that's the fantasy paradigm. So then envy and jealousy, it's when somebody has that thing that you want. In your little fantasy of what are the things necessary to be happy, in your list of conditioned happiness, some of those items somebody has. So then you want. So then you're jealous of that person who has one of your items because you think, oh, if only I had that. And then envy, you want to see that person lose that thing because you don't have it, so you want to see them lose it or even lose more because you're angry that they have it and you don't. So it's all based on this crazy illusion of who you are and what will make you happy. Completely false ideas. Completely wrong. So based on this completely distorted view of life, then we have jealousy and envy. So that's why it's not so hard to get out of jealousy and envy, because it's just coming back to like, who are you really? And what will really make you happy? And of course we explain that as the reality paradigm, being in the here and now, living your Dharma, and of course being in devotion to Krishna. So those things will really make you happy, and those things you can have. They're at your disposal 100% of the time, whenever you want it. Doesn't depend on anyone else, so you don't have to be envious or jealous of anyone because it's yours for the taking. So, and his mind is equal in material happiness and distress. And what's that? Equanimity. So it didn't take long for Krishna to get to equanimity, which is like a major topic always in these lists of how saintly people behave, or the perfect yogi, the perfect devotee, always at the top. In Bhagavad-gita, in chapter 12, there's a whole section like this, from verse 11 to verse 20 of chapter 12 in Bhagavad-gita is a giant list like this one, where Krishna says all the things of a perfect devotee. Such a devotee is very dear to me, he ends every verse saying. And there, equanimity takes front and center. Front and center. So equanimity, being happy and being equal. Mind is equal, equanimity, in material happiness and distress. Now, how do you get to that? Again, when your focus is on you doing your Dharma and in devotion to Krishna, it doesn't matter what the situation is, because whatever situation you're in, whatever. You could just be in a concentration camp, you could be buried under rubble, whatever it is, you can always perform your Dharma and you can have devotion to Krishna. You can always do your best and have devotion to Krishna. So then you're equal-minded, your mind is equal in any situation. But if you're in the fantasy paradigm, if you think you're matter, you're the body, then you're completely unequal, right? Your mind is totally not in equanimity, because then you have all these ups and downs, like this is good and this is bad, I like this, I hate this, I'm afraid of that thing. So then your mind is all over the place, and of course you're in misery and anxiety all the time. Thus he dedicates his time to work for the welfare of all others. It's very nice, because once you understand who you are, you understand what's best, then naturally you want to just dedicate yourself to helping others, because you can see that everybody could be happy, everybody could take shelter of Krishna, everybody could be living their Dharma, everybody could be in the here and now. There's no scarcity, there's no, oh, I have to take it from this person to give to that person. It's not like that. Everyone can be there. Everyone can experience spiritual bliss. And you want to see that. Naturally, it's like, why wouldn't? Of course you would. As soon as you get it, you're like, wow, I was being an idiot for so many lifetimes in a fantasy paradigm. Now I get it. Of course I want to share this, you know. Of course you want everybody to experience the same thing. That's why I've been doing this for 30 years, because it's like, this is it. This is so good. And you want to help other people do it as well. So it's quite natural that the next step is that you want to dedicate yourself for the welfare of all living beings. His intelligence is never bewildered by material desires, and he has controlled his senses. What does that mean? Now what happens is, again, if you're in the fantasy paradigm, if your mind is in the future based on material body and a material situation you want to be in, then you have desires to be in, you know, those material, that's what's called material desires, to see yourself in those situations. Okay, I have to be, you know, in this house, with that job, with this body, with this person next to me, you know, and then you create this little fantasy of situations and circumstances. So then you have these desires. And because you're aiming for those external things in the future, your intelligence is now distorted to achieve that goal. And so then you don't see what's right and what's wrong. You will run over people, you'll destroy the planet, you'll lie, cheat, and steal, hurt. It doesn't matter, because your intelligence has now been distorted, has been hijacked with that material goal. Now, if you're back in the reality paradigm with your mind in the here and now, focused on your Dharma, then your intelligence is clear and is not distorted by material desires, because you're always focused on your Dharma and on Bhakti. You're not thinking of a specific goal. Oh, I have to have that thing. No, I have to be the best person I can. I have to practice ahimsa. I have to be merciful and compassionate. I have to think of the welfare of others. So your mind is clear because it's focused on the important moral, ethical principles and not on material objectives. So your mind, your intelligence is never bewildered by material desires, and you control your senses, because your intelligence is under your control, then you can control your senses as well. You won't say stupid things, do stupid things, because now you're focused on doing your best on your Dharma. His behavior is always pleasing, never harsh, and always exemplary, and he is free from possessiveness. So, behavior is always pleasing. Naturally, when you're focused in thinking of other people, you're experiencing empathy, you're connecting with other people, which is a natural state of yogic mentality. You're no longer just trapped in your own desires of things you want. Again, you didn't lose your intelligence with material goals. Because that's the whole problem, is when you lose your intelligence and it just becomes so material, like I just have to have that thing. And then it doesn't matter how I get to that point. That's why the world is the way it is, like companies and countries and people. I have to have that thing. Okay, but to get that thing, you're going to have to destroy these people, abuse those people, destroy it. It doesn't matter, because I just want to get that thing. So it's like you don't even look at the destruction. Yeah, sure, let's get slaves. Yeah, let's wipe out these indigenous people. Let's destroy. Yeah, because I just want to get this thing. But will that make me rich? Yes, okay, let's go for it. You know, it doesn't. Your mind, your intelligence is gone. You're not thinking of anything. But when you come back to the reality, to truth, and then you're like, okay, it's all about values. It's about doing my best. It's about being a good person. It's about feeling the other, awareness of the other. You're no longer grossly selfish. So with this awareness of the other, naturally, you always want to be pleasing, just because it's like it's you. It's like you feel the other person. You can feel, you're actually feeling the other person. You have a natural empathy. So when you're pleasing, the person is happy, so then you're happy. It's just you. And when you're harsh, then the person is sad and then you're sad because you can feel them. You're connected with everyone. So naturally you're always pleasing and never harsh and exemplary because you really are honestly trying to do your best. You're not just being exemplary in the sense of, oh look how good I am, just for show. No, you just naturally are really trying to be your best, and that's why you're always exemplary. And you're free from possessiveness because, why are you free from possessiveness? Because you are focused on Dharma. You're not focused on material things. You're focused on doing your best, on your behavior, on your action in the here and now. So in that case, you understand that you don't need anything. You don't need anyone. Krishna says, you don't need anything or anyone. You just focus on doing your best with what you have. Does that mean then that you're going to have to walk around naked? No, it doesn't mean that. You can be like Arjuna. You could be the emperor of the world and be free from possessiveness. Because it means that these things aren't my keeping hold of this property is not my number one priority. My number one priority is doing my Dharma. And part of my Dharma is to protect my things. It's normal, right? You have a house. That is your Dharma, to protect your things. That's just your Dharma. So you'll do your Dharma, your duty to protect the things you have. But if something happens, or it's not the end of the world, because that wasn't, keeping the things wasn't your priority. Doing your Dharma was your priority. So doing your best was your priority. That's why it is. Arjuna, he didn't care for the empire. He didn't care. He didn't want to fight. He told Arjuna, he told Krishna, he says, Krishna, I don't, let them keep the empire. I don't care. I don't want to fight to take power. And Krishna says, no, that's not why you're fighting. You're not supposed to fight for the power. Krishna explains to him. You're not fighting to get power. And neither can you walk away from it because it's not pleasant. That was the whole thing. That's how Bhagavad-gita starts. Arjuna was like, I don't want to fight for this. I'll just walk out. And Krishna says, no. You're not fighting for power, neither can you just walk out. You know why? Because you have a duty, Dharma. Your Dharma is to fight. And that's why you're going to be fighting for Dharma, not for the goal, not for the empire. And you have a Dharma to fight, so you can't just walk out. Look at that. That's the situation. You can neither just walk out. He says, Arjuna tells Krishna, like, I was just going to become a beggar. I would just drop everything. I'd rather just be a beggar. He says, no, you can't. It's not your Dharma. So it's not about not having things. It's possessiveness, not possessions. That's very interesting. So naturally, you reach that state. He never endeavors in ordinary worldly activities, and he strictly controls his eating. Same idea. You don't endeavor in obtain, you don't, what he means, what they mean by endeavor, you'll see this come up a lot, is that you have limits. And the world needs this so much now. You don't overrun other dharmas to be able to achieve a material goal. That's what it means. You do it within a certain balance. So like these days, people ignore their family, their well-being for some work. Right? You see people working so hard, they don't sleep well, they don't take care of themselves, they don't see the family. So this complete lack of the work-life balance destroyed. Because people just want to get the objective, the money, the goal, the profit. And so what these instructions are, you never endeavor just in doing that. You're never going to just put yourself out and stress out for some worldly gain, for some material objective, never. You might really struggle for your Dharma. I mean, Arjuna was fighting for his life, literally. And for our Dharma, we may, if you're a parent, you may work really hard. If you're doing your Dharma, you're giving it your all, that's one thing. But you're doing it for Dharma, not for worldly activities. And then Krishna says, and he strictly controls his eating. Right? Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, never eat too much, never eat too much or too little. And of course in yoga we have a strict sattvic diet of prasad, of food first offered to Krishna. So that's quite controlled. We don't just eat anything. There's lots of things we don't eat. And the stuff we eat, we first offer it to Krishna. We'll only eat Krishna prasad. So that is how you control your eating. Of course, within that as well, you should try to eat healthy and not just eat fatty stuff and fried stuff, because you can kill yourself with Mahaprasad. But no, so you eat well, healthy, taking care of your body and your well-being. He therefore always remains peaceful and steady. Because you're doing all these things, normally, therefore you become peaceful and steady, because your mind isn't going all over the place. You're not full of envy and jealousy and craving and unbalance. Because of all these things, you now remain steady and peaceful. A saintly person is thoughtful and accepts me as his only shelter. So now finally Krishna has brought it to the level of bhakti. So this person is thoughtful, he's thinking, he's a philosopher, you're thinking about life, about things, you're using your mind, your intelligence, and you have come to Krishna as your only shelter. So that's a very important point. Such a person is very cautious in the execution of his dharmas and is never subject to superficial transformations, because he is steady and noble even in a distressing situation. So again, equanimity, he's steady and noble even in distressing situations. So you keep your equanimity. Why? Because you are very cautious in the execution of your dharma. That is very important. Very cautious in the execution of your dharma. Very much dharma conscious. We're always thinking, what is my duty? What is the best of me? What should I do? Always very cautious with your dharma. This is a key point taught by Krishna everywhere. So very cautious with our execution of our dharma, and therefore with equanimity. Your mind isn't disturbed. He has conquered over the 6 material qualities: hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. So what does that mean? How can you conquer death? What about what about an old yogi? What about a sick yogi? Don't yogis die as well? Have they conquered that? Well, so what have they really conquered? They have conquered the fear of these things. They have conquered the way these things destroy material life. For a person who's identified with the body, these things are the end. This is the total failure. If you're hungry, if you're thirsty, if you're dying, old age, these things are, if you're a material body, that's it, you lose. But once you understand your true spiritual nature, then you have conquered over these things. Of course, you still get hungry, you still get thirsty, you still get old, and you will still die. But these things aren't your life. These things won't consume you, because you are seeing beyond all these things. You know you are Atman, eternal entity. He is free from all desire for prestige and offers honor to others. That's another interesting quality. Once you're focused on your Dharma, you're no longer trying to get prestige, because prestige is one of the things we want in our mix of our fantasy paradigm. Oh, I need the car, the wife, the house, and prestige, right? So fame, actually in these days, because of social media, if you look at research, like what you most want in life, people now put fame is at the top, and then wealth. It's fame first, and then wealth. It used to be like, wealth, power, beauty, but now it's like fame. So fame, more than ever in our current society, is at the top of the list. Prestige, people really love fame. Because they're thinking, well, if I'm famous, life is wonderful. You know, that's the idea. Look at these famous people, their life is so wonderful, so I want to be like them. This is typical fantasy paradigm stuff. Of course, the famous people, they're miserable, they're really unhappy, they're stressed out to heck, they wish they weren't famous, they wish they could just go down to the store. They hate it. They have to hide their children, and they have to hide all these things. They hate it. Their life is exposed. It's miserable. But you thinking, no, it's wonderful. I really want that. It's not. So because you're no longer searching for these foolish things in matter as your port of happiness, then you don't need it anymore. And then, because you don't need it, you're free to give honor. Because people don't give honor because they want honor. They think they'll lose it, right? You don't want to help others because you want everything for you. You know, it's selfishness. You just want to pull everything your way. Attention, honor, wealth, whatever. You know, people are like that. But actually, when you don't need it anymore, then you can give it. And so you honor because it feels good to honor people. It's natural, actually. It's quite natural to honor people because everybody is this eternal soul, devotee of, it's a son, daughter of God. Everybody deserves your honor. It's nice and it feels good to honor others. And when you honor others and then they feel good, and then because you have empathy, you feel good for them. So everybody's winning, everybody's happy. So it's like a win-win situation. So naturally, you don't want it for yourself, and you're willing to give honor to others. He is expert in reviving the Krishna consciousness of others, and therefore never cheats anyone. So this is so now back to the Bhakti qualities. So we're taking full shelter, Krishna said, of Krishna, and also that you're helping others achieve the same level because you have compassion, you have your duty, and so you're good at that. You're good at helping other people reconnect with their spiritual reality, reconnect with Krishna. Again, it's just, you just get there naturally. Once you do it, you've done it, you know the path, you want to share it as well. Rather, he is a well-wishing friend to all, being most merciful. So of course he never cheats anyone, and rather he's a well-wishing friend to all. He wants to help everyone. Naturally, that's the stage you'll be in once you understand that your focus is Dharma, is Krishna, that you're Atman. Naturally, you just want to help everyone. It's not something that's artificial anyway. You just naturally want to see everyone be elevated, be happy, be joyful, and of course progress towards Krishna. Such a saintly person must be considered the most learned of men, because Krishna says that is knowledge. In Bhagavad-gita there's a section, he says jnana, and he lists all these qualities and behaviors, and they're all towards enlightenment and being a good person, understanding the truth of reality, soul and Krishna. And also naturally, if you're on this stage, you are most learned. He perfectly understands the ordinary Dharma duties prescribed by me, that ordinary Dharma duties prescribed by me in various Vedic scriptures possess favorable qualities that purify the performer. So we know that all these Dharmas are good for everyone to perform Dharma because it purifies the performer. And he knows that neglect of such Dharma constitutes a discrepancy in one's life. And we know that if you don't do your duty, if you don't do your Dharma, you're going to suffer. The great line from Mahabharata, if you hurt Dharma, you will be hurt by Dharma. And we see that every day. Like when we fail in any Dharma in our life, then you can see that we get the negative result. If you don't take care of your body, you get sick. If you're not good with your family, you have a bad family life. If you don't take care of your spiritual life, then you're suffering in material anxiety. There's always, if we don't have good community Dharma and take care of our community, then we have a crummy society. There's always, if we don't take care of the planet, then the planet, has crazy weather and we suffer from it. So we always get the other side, that if we don't take care of Dharma, we get in trouble. Having taken complete shelter at my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary dharma and worships me alone. Now this is practically verbatim verse 1866 of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. So don't just depend on all these dharmas, come to me alone. So it's not that we get stuck in the material concept of dharma. No, we do our dharma to please Krishna. That is our way of pleasing Krishna while we are here incarnated. That's what we'll do from one minute to the next. Because what are you supposed to do here? You're here, so you do your dharma to please Krishna. But you understand that ultimately, the ultimate purpose is to take full shelter of Krishna alone, me alone. Krishna uses the same term here, me alone, just like he does in Bhagavad Gita. And the last line, he is thus considered to be the best among all living entities. So wow, so that was I hope you enjoy that. I hope you can meditate on these qualities and then see how you can, which one can I work on now? And you can see they all have the same root. Once you understand the fantasy paradigm versus the reality paradigm, once you situate yourself in the reality paradigm of being the here and now, focusing your dharma in devotion, all these other qualities naturally arise. You don't work on, it's not like these different things I have to work on. No, they all come from this one mentality. So I hope you enjoy that and you have the rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love. Hare Krishna.